and always know you could feel beauty rising.
Hi, my name is Sue Skasky with Vermont Volunteer Services for Animals Humane Society, and welcome to our show, For the Animals. Today we have Amy Emerson from Newbury, Vermont, who recently lost her beloved companion, Kane, a German Shepherd dog, and today's story is about the ordeal. Kane's companion, Coda, is in the studio with us too. He's an Australian cattle dog?
Yes.
And how old?
He's about 9.5 months.
Okay, we're going to bring him on later, but he is all puppy. So the barking you hear is Coda or Coda?
Coda.
Coda. Today's story is a tough one. Amy's, you probably saw it in the Valley News, perhaps on television. Amy's dog Kane was caught in a lake hold trap, and this was on February.
It was on Monday night.
Okay. The article that appeared in the Valley News is dated
The 14th.
14th on Valentine's Day. Made the lead story. And this is what we're here to talk about today, because Vermonters really know that there is something that we can do about lake hold traps, about snares, in an effort to ban them. Not only in Vermont, but everywhere. They're horrible, torturous devices. But today we're going to talk about Amy's ordeal. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I know this is not going to be easy to get through, but we'll get through it.
Okay.
Okay. A reporter for the Valley News, Maggie Cassidy, covered the story, and I'd like to read her introduction and we can then talk about your ordeal. Quote, Newbury, Vermont. Authorities have cited a Corey Hill Road man with animal cruelty and illegal trapping after he allegedly shot and killed a neighbor's dog that had been snared by one of his hunting traps. On Thursday, Vermont State Police called Richard Martin, 45, on the misdemeanor animal cruelty charge in connection with the shooting death of the dog earlier in the week, according to Trooper Chuck Schultz. Mm-hmm. Martin is scheduled to appear next month in Orange County Court. Do you know the date?
March 19th.
March 19th, and that's open to the public, of course.
Yes.
Okay. So on Monday, February 10th, can you tell me what happened?
As usual, we get ready for bed and the lights go out and the dogs are ready to go out. So I let both dogs out, and about a half an hour to 45 minutes later, my daughter returned from work to find just Coda outside, and she came in and said, "Where's Kane, and why does Coda have this giant deer leg?" Oh. And I said, I don't know, but probably wherever the deer leg came from, he'll be coming back. And so we hollered to him for a short time, and then all went to bed, assuming we'd be awakened by him in the night.
So that's the routine,
Mm-hmm.
to let him out at night?
Yes.
Okay, so your daughter came home, he was gone, you hollered for him, then what happened?
So we went to bed, got up. I got up about 1:30. I hollered to him again. I then went back to bed. At this point was somewhat concerned that he wasn't back, but I get up at 5 for work. So I got up, still not there, got ready for work, left for work, called a couple of neighbors and asked them to check in the morning mm-hmm. to see if he was there.
Do your neighbors live very close to you?
Well, maybe, a quarter to a mile.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We have about 13 acres of land, and then the property on the opposite side of us is my boyfriend's parents' land, and they have 50 acres, so
okay,
so pretty significant.
So it's nice. It's
yes.
I mean, people know each other,
Mm-hmm.
people know your animals, and okay, that's one good. And so what happened after that?
So by noon, he hadn't surfaced, and he wasn't home. Neighbors hadn't seen him.
You took time off from work?
I left work at noon.
Okay.
Or shortly after noon, and I have about an hour drive home. So I got home and bundled up, and I grabbed Coda, and with the fresh snow, I knew that I would know where they had gone.
It's a good thing about the snow.
Absolutely.
You know where to follow the tracks.
Yes. So I went around the yard. Then the tracks went out of our driveway and up the road, and between our property and Martin's property, there's a snowmobile trail this time of year, mm-hmm. and the two dogs tracks weaved that snowmobile trail, looped right back down onto the road and right up this next driveway. So I followed the driveway to two shacks. One looks like an old sugar house. The other one appears to perhaps be a residence. And it was here that Coda ran ahead of me on a foot trail.
Are Coda and Kane brothers?
In our family they are, but
Okay.
not blood related.
Okay. How old is Coda?
He's about 9.5 months old.
Okay. And Kane was 7.
He was, yeah, a little about 7.5.
Okay. All right. So you're following the tracks up.
So Coda, at this point, I was a little nervous because it was really a sketchy little shack. Coda ran ahead of me and onto the small footpath where someone had worn down in the snow. When he ran ahead of me, I heard him yiping, and I could still see him, and he started flipping around. And I kind of ran to him to find his foot in a leg trap. And so, not having ever used one, I tried to get it open, got my glove caught in it.
They're not easy to open.
No. And I knew when I was getting his foot out that Kane had to be like right there somewhere. And so I got his foot out and looked to my right, and there he was. And so I just ran over saying, "You must be so cold, you must be so cold."
That was Kane. You saw.
Yes. And I didn't think anything more but to just find the trap, because I knew that's why he would be there. And I released his foot, which was very cold, and I patted his...
Did you think at this time he was still alive?
I did. I really thought he was alive, and I was patting his back and saying, "Okay, buddy, get up, it's okay." And then I realized when he didn't move that he had blood on his face and he had been shot.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Somehow you're related to Rick Martin.
Yes, he is my ex's family, Alana's father. It's his first cousin, making him Alana's second cousin. I've known Rick for probably 20 years.
So he would have known that Kane was your dog.
Presumably so, yes.
But your dog had tags.
He did.
Identification.
Yes, he had a choke collar that had a bell hanging off it, as well as a name tag, which is a blue bone that has my name and phone number, and also his rabies tag, both on his collar.
You said that his body was still warm.
Yes, his feet were cold.
The extremities always.
Presumably in 14 below, being there all night. That I kind of thought they would be cold, so I still didn't think that he was dead until he didn't move. And then I just laid my head on him and I said, "Breathe, move, like something, get up." And he didn't, so I said, "I have to pick you up. I have to get you out of here."
Were you able to get the trap off at that point?
Yeah, I did get the trap off, and it was just on 2 toes on his back foot.
Oh.
Just not even his whole foot, just two
Oh.
toes.
I can't imagine what poor Kane felt. And we have a trap that I want to demonstrate for those of you that don't know what they are. We did a show on a lake hold trap a year and a half ago, and I could not find one person. We offered $100 to anybody who would let us put their finger, take a $100 bill out of the trap. Everybody looked at us like we were crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Animals feel no less pain. So what happened after that?
So Coda was pawing at Kane's back and just looking at me and pawing at him, and then started to lick the blood on his ear. And then what he would always do is jump in front of him and bark and to get him to play.
Yeah.
And when he didn't do that, he would then start pawing at him again, and I just said, "Okay, we have to get him out of here." And so I picked him up the best that I could, and kind of carried him for a few feet and then stopped.
He was a good-sized dog.
Yeah, he was about 80 pounds.
Wow.
So I couldn't like physically pick him up,
Right.
and I wasn't sure how I could get him around my neck,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So I kind of just kind of sort of dragged him, you know, and like picked his body up as much as I could. And
Amy, at this point, did you know that he had been shot? You saw the
I
blood.
did. Yes, I did. I saw where he had been shot in the like right in his ear.
The article said that you struggled to carry Kane's 80-pound body down the driveway with the younger dog pawing at him and whining, sometimes climbing on Kane's body. And when you paused and carried him out to the end of the driveway and lay with him, wondering what to do next, I'd imagine that you were in shock.
I was. I couldn't believe who would do this. I couldn't believe that I was finding him like that. I certainly expected to find him caught up by his collar somewhere in the woods, but not in a trap and then shot.
It has to be like a nightmare you expect to wake up from.
Yes,
Did you call the police?
I did. When I got him out of the deep snow to the plowed out yard, I first just laid there with him for a few minutes. I called my boyfriend and said, please come, I need your help, like we need to get him out of here. And I then, because he was going to be about a half an hour, he was still at work, I decided to call the police. And when I was speaking with the girl at the police station, I just said, is there anything legally I can do? I know that my dog was running, I know that he was out of my yard, but to shoot him...
Your dog was lured. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. There was a large bone pile or deer part pile.
Was it a fresh deer part pile?
There was.
Am I wrong? When did deer season end?
I'm not a big hunter, but I'm sure it was in November.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure November. Let's stretch it to December. Now we're in February.
There were definitely some more fresh deer parts on the top of the most recent large snowstorm that we had, with a dusting on those fresh parts that were there, and they were all covered by this big metal cage, like a wire mesh.
Oh, so they couldn't get them and run off with them.
Right, and then the traps encircled this big pile.
This guy's a real charmer.
Which the pile is probably 25 feet from his front door.
No. And you said that there were traps around.
Yes, the trap that Coda got caught in was to the left side of the pile, and the trap that Kane was in was on the right side of the pile.
So animals are being lured in for food. I mean, it's been a hard winter. Animals are hungry. They get lured in. What does he do with the animals that he traps and kills?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Trapping season is over, by the way. So, all right, I'm sorry, I got you off track. The police call, you called the police.
And they gave me information for the dog catcher, and they asked me if I knew whose residence I was at. And of course, at that moment, I didn't know who lived there. But while I was on the phone with her, I saw this Chevy Colorado pulling in, and I knew the vehicle to be Rick Martin's. And I said, I know who lives here. It's Rick Martin. And she said, can you talk to him civilly? And I said, I think so. And so when he got out of his truck, I said, how could you do this? And his response was, I had no idea this was your dog. And I said, it doesn't matter whose dog this is. It's a dog. It's someone's pet. It's my family.
That's the part that I read that I just, how could you do this? It's a dog. Not that it makes any difference if it's a fox, a raccoon, or anything else, but how could you look in an animal's eyes knowing in this? I had a beloved friend that passed away. He was in his 90s. He was brought up as a trapper, and in his later years he did not trap. And he said the reason he stopped is because he couldn't take it anymore. He would walk upon an animal caught in a trap, and that fear in that animal's eyes was so hard for him to look at. He put down his gun one day and said, no more, I can't do this.
I just can't, I can't imagine. And so the other thing that I said to Rick was, you know, why didn't you let him go? And he said, he tried to attack me. And I said, of course, wouldn't you, if you were stuck in a trap at 14 below all night, wouldn't you be angry too? And
you know what, I've got to say, I'll bet you it's the way he approached.
Well, and I said to him, there's no sign that the dog struggled over there. There's basically where he laid when his foot got in. It wasn't like it was packed down and he had been thrashing and aggressive. I said, but your 2 tracks in front of him are there, and if you were close enough to hold a gun to his head, you were close enough to let that trap go. And he just kept apologizing, and you know, I believe that he's sorry because he knows me and because he's related to my child.
Sorry because he got caught.
That too, yes.
He's wrapping out of season.
Mm-hmm.
He's had violations before?
Yes, according to the paper.
Okay.
I did see that.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. You know, like I said, I want to kind of point out that trap season is over, and I understand that the State Fish and Wildlife Department also cited Martin on 4 separate counts of illegal trapping for allegedly setting traps out of season, according to a news release. Mm-hmm. Trapping on land is prohibited by Vermont law after December 31st every year until the following fall, according to the Valley News. So why does he still have a license, and why is he still in possession of traps?
I'm not sure how that works. I asked the game warden while they were at his house that evening why they weren't taking all of his traps, and they assured me that his traps were pulled and that they would not be reset. And they did have the 1 trap that Kane was caught in as evidence for the charges that they intended to pursue against him.
So you had no idea that any traps were set on the property when you walked up to it?
Nope.
That's pretty scary.
Well, I could have, suppose my foot could have been in there.
Sure. Yeah. What happened when you talked with the dog catcher?
I didn't talk with the dog catcher because the game warden and the police actually arrived like around 30 minutes after I contacted them. They were there, so I never did call the dog catcher.
Okay. Which they don't call dog catcher anymore. I'm dating
Not sure what it
myself,
is. Yeah.
animal control officer. Hey, I'm old. Also, the Newberry Constable Glenn Godfrey, who also serves as the town's animal control officer, said that he has never received any complaints about your dogs, any of your dogs belonging to any of your family members. And you were quoted as saying in the paper that all the guy had to do was to release the trap. He didn't have to shoot him. And he was close enough to release the trap if he was close enough to shoot him, which is absolutely true. In the report, it was mentioned that there were a large pile of deer parts that we talked about, and they were snow-covered. Does this mean, this is what I'm trying to play with in my mind, does this mean that Rick left Kane in the trap after he shot him in hopes of trapping more animals, do you think?
I really don't know what his intention was, but you know, trapping him, knowing he was in the trap all night at 14 below, and then shooting him, I just can't wrap my hands around how someone could do that. Like how a breathing, living person could have no
remorse.
Heart,
I know.
You know, I mean, he had a tag on. You know, and
did he shoot him at night or in the morning? Do you know when he checked?
He told me in the morning. I asked him. I did say, when did you shoot him? And he said in the morning.
Oh, Amy. Oh.
But I'm not sure that he did it with his body still being warm. I don't know that he may have stayed there most of the day.
So you got back to your house, and then what?
There were 2 of my friends there who had, they had come to help me look for him, but I was too impatient to wait. I just wanted to go.
Sure.
But when I had found him, I messaged one of them and I said, I found him, can you please come and help me? Of course, I didn't say where I was, so they were waiting in my driveway and they were trying to follow my tracks.
Right.
Of course, Rick did load the dog in his truck and bring us to my house. And so when I got there, I told my friends that he had shot my dog. So I just laid on the ground with the dog and just couldn't believe that it was really happening. And they exchanged some words with him, and he got aggressive and started hollering about a leash law. And they told him he had done enough damage and that he should leave.
I read in the paper that Officer Schultz said, quote, the shooting did not rise to the level of a felony charge as described in the state statutes. In part, he said, because there was no evidence that the dog was tortured. And I have to tell you, I take exception to that assumption. I have yet to find one single person that will put their hand in a leg hold trap. And if you have to think about the hours that the animal endured, suffering, cold, filled with pain, fear, not knowing what's coming next, trying to escape. You know, animals bite their limbs off in an effort to survive. It's your life that you're talking about. And if that's not torture, I don't know what is. I truly think that our law enforcement needs to put themselves in the place of the animal. That's a sentient, feeling, caring creature. And by the way, speaking with a veterinarian about this, not that you want to hear this, but shooting in the head is not instantaneous. It's not a guaranteed instant death. So, you know, when blood is cut off from a limb for a period of time, severe damage is caused to the animal. The traps don't discriminate between a dog, a cat, a raccoon, a fox, a child, you if you'd walked up on it. These are barbaric, painful, needless devices that definitely need to be banned. I know that there are towns now that are banning them in an effort to get them. In Massachusetts, we've got some towns that have banned it. In Europe, they're banned.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's great.
I know. So it's something that, you know, thanks to getting the word out, not that we would want this to happen again to another animal, but I've got to also share this. Just last week on 2/8/2/14, I guess it's a couple weeks now, in Rutland, a man, Donald Young, 65, of Rutland Town, set a trap in the park, a conibear trap, that caught Doc, a little Cairn Terrier, if you can see him. That's the type of dog that's on Wizard of Oz. And the poor woman, Doc, had run up ahead of her and was lured into the trap, snapped on him, and by the time she got to him, she couldn't release it, and her dog was dying in this trap. And so she grabbed Doc and she went running out, but before she could find somebody strong enough to open, the dog died in her arms. You know, I truly think if people saw what went on inside a trap and the suffering, you can't condone it. You can't think it's nothing. So in Officer Schultz's defense, though, he did say the bottom line is there were other solutions to what Rip Martin did.
He said that to me as well. He said that both the game warden and Officer Schultz said that dogs and other animals get caught in traps regularly, and they call them and they have ways to release them.
We brought a trap. I do want to show what it is, but I'm sure the past few days have absolutely been heartbreaking for you. Can you tell me how it is for your other dog?
Coda spends a lot of time looking around the house, and when he sees other dogs now, he gets really, really excited, and he almost doesn't know how to react to them.
Yeah, they grieve. They grieve too.
He won't eat out of, there used to be a lot of competition over Kane's dog dishes, because Kane was the dominant dog of our house, and Coda would always sneak in if Kane was watching him to drink his water or maybe eat out of his food dish. And since Kane has been gone, Coda completely boycotts. He hasn't been anywhere near Kane's food or water. He refuses to drink out or eat out of either of them.
To me, it's heartbreaking because they grieve in silence. It's so sad. Well, and I do think it's important for people to know that there is something that you're doing right now with a petition. Can you give me the details on that? We can get it up online.
I do have a petition that just states that Richard Martin did trap and kill my dog unnecessarily. I have written petitions around town in Bradford at local businesses in hopes of maybe getting another one online that people outside of this direct community can access, and any support to get these traps and to charge people that commit such a horrible crime. To me, it's murder. It's my child. So it just doesn't make sense that it doesn't get tried in the same way.
How would they find that petition? I petition?
I petition, I believe.
Okay, we'll get that up on our website.
Okay.
So please go to vvsahs.org. You can definitely print them out, get people to sign, and then return them to you?
Yes.
What mailing address?
Post Office Box 892, In Bradford, Vermont, it's 05033.
Okay. Is there anything else that you can think of right now that we haven't talked about?
Just that I want him to go to jail. I want this to be an example that you can't do this. It's someone's family member. You can't just kill
Right.
an animal.
Okay. Well, now is our chance to speak up. Please, again, go to vvsahs.org. We'll have the petition link there
Okay.
as well. And demand justice. The court date again is?
March 19th, and it's in Orange County Court in Chelsea, Vermont.
Okay. Do you know what time?
I do not have the time.
Okay. If you check our website, I'll make sure that we find out and we'll post that.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
And stay tuned for Leg Hole Trap. Okay, this is a leg hole trap, and similar to the one that Cain walked into.
Yes.
So he's walking. And that would be Cain's limb. And he was caught by
2 toes.
toes. So guaranteed his toes were broken in there overnight. And whether that's a cat, a dog, a fox, a raccoon, a fisher, that's a bone. That's the bone of a living creature. Actually, this is a stick with the same porous material of a living creature. Thank you very much for watching For the Animals, and please join us again next week. And in closing, I want to show you the most precious picture of Cain when he was a puppy.
Sit. There he is, with the same collar that Cain had. Look at her. Look over here. Hey, buddy. Stay. Okay, look now look at your mama. Look at she's over there.
That was good. Even if you
Was that okay?
Yeah.
I think that's good because that shows you.
Oh, that's nice. He's like, just fight.
Go down.
He's like, no, mom's over there.
Sit.
That's great.
Did you get one?
That's good.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really good.
That'll look good.
Okay. Here, buddy. Put your collar back on.
At dusk, there came a turning. There was a moment when all was known. You could feel